Safani binti Bahadir. My matrix number is 2021493648
and my name is Nurdanisha binti Muhammad Zahid. My matrix number is 2021623732.
My name is Abdul Majid Berazif. My matrix number 2021206402.
My name is Ahmad Zahid Muzakir bin Zabah. My matrix number is 2021815442.
Hi, my name is Aiman bin Hamir. My number matrix is 2021857324.
The Russia-Ukraine war give a harsh impact to Ukraine economy. Not only that, the country's inflation rate also has been concerning. Do you have any idea what is the background behind the inflation rate in Ukraine?
I do have one though. So as we all know, inflation can be defined as price increases that can be thought of as a gradual loss of purchasing power. Inflation has always been a contentious issue in Ukraine. Ever since gaining its independence in 1991, Ukraine has experienced significant inflation. It was initially brought on by the liberalization of prices during the period of significant consumer goods deficit, which was a problem shared by all post-Soviet and Eastern European economies. Since then, it hasn't decreased in 2 to 3 years, unlike in Poland or the Baltic states, but has instead continued to grow. The policy inconsistency and the attempt to maintain high Soviet-style social standards in the rapidly contracting economy without a strong tax base were the main causes of this growth, which resulted in excessive money emission.
So for analysis data for inflation, if we can see the data from 2012 until 2021 show that the lowest rate of inflation is 0.24% in 2013 and 0.56% in 2012. Starting from 2014, the rate of inflation in Ukraine was start increasing because of the economic crisis and the political issue. On February 20, 2014, Ukraine had a problem with diplomatic relations with Russia. This has caused a war between them, Ukraine and Russia. Various economic problems have emerged during this war and have caused problems with inflation and unemployment. In February 2015, the CPI inflation already quite high, accelerate further to 34.5% year to year, the highest figure in 2 decades. For recent, the inflation rate for consumer price in Ukraine moved over the past 20 years between negative 0.2% and 4,734.9% for 2021, and inflation rate of 9.4% was calculated during their observation period from 1993 to 2021. So the average inflation rate was 228.6% per year.
Well, the issues related to inflation in Ukraine were the war between Ukraine and Russia that happened on April last year. As you all know, the war was giving a terrible impact to the country by losing a countless amount of soldiers, facilities and civilians. While Ukraine facing this, Russia also facing a large sum of unemployment, and other countries that had to confront the war have a problem regarding food supply for their citizens. We can take an example from Lebanon, which have a big problem in providing an affordable food prices for its citizens because the Ukrainian grain that been shipped to their country was not enough to fulfill the country's capacity. Since the war began, World Bank Group has organized a $925 package for Ukraine so that they can continue their government activities, pay wages and salaries. Besides, the Ukrainian government has implemented an inflation tax, loan, grants and central bank financing just to fund the war. This action resulting the private consumption in the country falls by 25% to 13%. Ukraine, well known for its agriculture producer and exporters such as wheat and corn. Also, they were known as breadbasket of Europe. Because of the war, Ukraine cannot produce the wheat as the usual demand, and it caused a rising of price for the food as it stated in the FAO data. Therefore, the hardly substitute product like wheat and gas are causing an increased price on the product because of the limited supply during the war. It hit hard for the poorly household the most in Europe because of the rising price for food and energy. What are the causes of inflation in Ukraine?
In Ukraine, various causes contribute to inflation over 10 years, including firstly, war. The war in Ukraine in 2022 between Ukraine and Russia is still one of the main reasons for an inflation in the country. Food, energy, and commodity price have risen around the world since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In addition, the cause of inflation in Ukraine is currency devaluation. Currency depreciation has been significant contributor to inflation in Ukraine. In recent years, Ukraine's central bank depreciated the hryvnia by 25% against the US dollar. Furthermore, supply chain. The war slowed the movement of product, full price increases, and product shortage, and caused global food shortage. Russia has been damaging Ukraine's agriculture infrastructure, causing the entire supply chains to be interrupted. Other than that, government spending. When the government boosts its expenditure, the money supply expands, which can produce inflation. This is due to the fact that an increase in the money supply can lead to an increase in demand for goods and services, which can cause price to rise. For the unemployment in Ukraine, what happened to the economy there?
Unemployment is actually a term referring to someone who is jobless. Unemployment is a key economic indicator because it shows the ability and also inability of workers to readily obtain profitable work to contribute the productive output to the economy of the country. The Russian assault has had a significant impact to the Ukrainian economy. More than 5.23 million refugees has fled to the neighboring countries. The refugees comprise mainly women, children and persons over age of 60. An estimated 4.8 million jobs have been lost in Ukraine. Since the start of the Russian aggression, the Ukrainian government has taken significant effort to maintain the operation, especially to those who have been internally displaced through the use of digital technology.
So based on the diagram that has been shown in the magazine, what analysis that you can make from it?
The analysis that I can make from the data is that the rate of unemployment in Ukraine was start increasing from 2014. This year is when Ukraine start having a crisis with Russia. It been stated that on March 2014, Russia has done an annexed crime that resulting their president being ousted and affect Ukraine economy. The condition caused a reduction in Ukraine GDP and increasing of unemployment. Highest rate was recorded in 2017 by 9.5%. During this year, almost a quarter of population in Ukraine, with 3.5 million people on its country, are proposed illegally and unscrupulous employers. The recent unemployment rate is 8.9% in 2021. Looking at the trend of rate, we can see the rate was decreased to 8.2% in 2019, then increased to 9.2% in 2020 because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and lastly it decreased to 8.2% in 2021. This clearly shows that the trend of unemployment rate in Ukraine will fluctuate. Based on the analysis, what issue that related about unemployment in Ukraine?
Issue related is crisis unemployment between Ukraine and Russia. An estimated 4 million jobs have been lost in Ukraine since the beginning of the Russian invasion. The study estimates that if hostilities increase, job losses will increase to 7 million. Ukraine's economy has been severely affected by the Russian invasion since it began on February 24. More than 5.23 million refugees have fled to neighboring countries. Refugees are mainly women, children, and people aged 60 and over. The war has forced the country's unemployment rate to jump threefold to an unprecedented level of 35% or 5.2 million people. The International Labour Organization puts the number of unemployed at closer to 4.8 million or around 30% of pre-war unemployment in Ukraine. Experts say this figure can hardly give a real picture of unemployment in the country. The war has either destroyed thousands of businesses or forced them to close, displacing workers both domestically and abroad. Since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion on February 24, around 10 million people, or more than a third of Ukraine's population, have either been displaced internally or have become refugees abroad. Large number of people who are out of work are still considered officially employed on paper.
There are several types of unemployment in Ukraine over 10 years. Firstly, cyclical unemployment. The impact of an economic recession or growth on the overall unemployment rate is referred to as cyclical unemployment. According to the most recent International Organization for Migration study, more than 6.2 million Ukrainians are still living in other parts of Ukraine after Russia's full-scale invasion. According to the National Bank of Ukraine, the country's jobless rate has risen to 34%. Next, frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment is a type of short-term unemployment. Frictional unemployment in Ukraine can be caused by a number of factors, including a lack of job possibility in specific location or industry, a lack of skill or qualification for certain occupation, or a lack of information about potential job prospect. Last but not least, structural unemployment. In Ukraine, structural unemployment refers to a mismatch between the abilities and credentials of unemployed employees and their needs for accessible jobs. Change in technology, economic development, and a lack of training chance for workers can all contribute to this. In Ukraine, structural unemployment is a major problem that has been compounded by the country's ongoing economic difficulties.